everyone, and welcome to Faith Evolving. My name is Mary Clare, and today we're going to be talking about the importance of grace, especially in a digital age. A while back, I was having just a bad day. I was running late, very frazzled, and I slide into my 9:30, a couple of minutes late, trying to find something to take notes with. Realize I don't have anything, so I look at my desk mate and very kind of like meekly I'm like, do you have like a pencil or a pen that I can borrow? And she looks at me and somehow reads into my soul and says, Mary Clare, there's so much grace in this world. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. Because it's so easy to forget. While there is so much grace in this world, there are places where grace is severely lacking, especially on the internet. I recently watched Bo Burnham's new comedy special. Are we gonna call it comedy or are we gonna call it what it is, which is like an avant-garde art piece that like defies categorization. It was a very good piece of media that hit the moment very well. But the song in it that I loved the most was Welcome to the Internet.
Welcome to the Internet.
And the whole song is about how there is so much happening all the time. And the internet is this place of infinite possibilities at all times that can lead to some good.
Here's a healthy breakfast option.
And like some of the worst things ever.
You should kill your mom.
And we just kind of have to somehow process that. And meanwhile, people are using the fact that we're constantly on there to take advantage of us and get money from us. And it's this whole web of mess. Now here briefly, I'm going to speak in terms of generations. And generations are inherently generalizations, like it's in the name. But where I fall is between Gen Z and millennials. I am technically a Gen Z though. But since I'm caught in the middle, I can more easily understand and like analyze and sympathize with both some of the millennial spirit and the Gen Z. I've noticed, especially on the Gen Z side, on the internet, it is very puritanical. There is not a lot of room for messing up and coming back from it in a healthy way. There is this ideal of perfection that one must reach. And if they don't, which we all won't, you are now a bad person.
And the issue here is when one mistake then turns into a character judgment. Repeated offenses is another story, and a lot of this gets into cancel culture, which is a whole other thing. But I wanted to add, there's a lot of nuance to this.
And I find this especially in leftist spaces, and I think it's a weakness of the left, is that you are never left enough. You have never read enough theory, or the right theory, or know enough. And there's so much gatekeeping, and not a lot of genuine education with compassion and bringing people in. It's sometimes more about showboating how smart and intelligent you are. And I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think that's a very effective method of making change. And it's also, sorry, not biblical. Not all of my viewers are Christians, nor do I expect you to be, but I think in this instance, there's a good bit of wisdom in this guy. Especially from our old pal,
Jesus Christ.
On the internet, we are pretty vengeful. And on the Sermon on the Mount, which is found in Matthew, look, I got my Bible. See, I'm a real Christian. Teaching about revenge. Matthew 5:38 and 39 are the parts that I'm going to be talking about. And it says, "You have heard the law that says the punishment must match the injury. An eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. But I say, do not resist an evil person. If someone slaps you on the right cheek, offer the other cheek also." Now, at first glance, if you just do a surface level reading, is Jesus telling me to just like let people walk all over me? That's not great. I don't love that. And your gut having that response makes sense, because this is where historical context comes in very, very handy. So, if you think about the culture that Jesus was in and the culture of a lot of the people that Jesus was talking to, there was a code for reprimanding people through physical violence, I guess. So within the hierarchy of the day, if you're a person in power and you are reprimanding someone with your hand, you have different ways in which you slap someone, depending on what social strata the other person is in comparison to your social strata. If you are reprimanding someone who is below you on the social hierarchy, you are to backhand them. Like this. If you are reprimanding someone who is of the same social strata, you reprimand them with an open palm slap. No matter which way you're reprimanding them, backhand, front hand, you must use your dominant hand. So, if you are being reprimanded and you turn the other cheek, the person who is reprimanding you has two options. They either slap you with their non-dominant hand, which brings dishonor on themselves.
Within the culture of the time, this is seen as kind of like a dirty move, you know? Like, it's not a good look.
By having someone slap you with their non-dominant hand, they are going beyond what is necessary and just being cruel at this point. And that reflects more poorly on them than it does on you. So that's option one. They show that they're being an asshole. Or option two, they are forced then to front slap someone who is below them or backhand someone who is of the same social strata. And in that case, it reveals the inequality at play. If you are below, you are forcing them to treat you as an equal. And if you are an equal, you are revealing that it is wrong and not cool to backhand someone. So let's take this to a modern context, maybe on the internet, where someone is hurting you. You turn the other cheek,
meaning you call them out on it instead of letting them get away with it.
And that poses them an option. They either do the action again, and it reflects more poorly on them, or they can choose to confront the issue at play. But what if someone keeps repeatedly slapping you when you turn the other cheek in an unethical, unclean, not great way? We'll go to Matthew again. This time in Matthew 10, where Matthew 10, 11 through 15. It says, "Whenever you enter a city or village, search for a worthy person and stay in his home until you leave town. When you enter the home, give it your blessing. If it turns out to be a worthy home, let your blessing stand. If it is not, take back the blessing. If any household or town refuses to welcome you or listen to your message, shake its dust from your feet as you leave. I tell you the truth, the wicked cities of Sodom and Gomorrah will be better off than such a town on the judgment day." And once again, at surface level, I know for me, reading that, I'm like, hey, Jesus, that sounds vengeful a little bit, and like you're giving up on people. And didn't we just a few chapters ago say, that we shouldn't do that, remember? But in conversation with people, I now read this passage in this light. If someone is repeatedly hurting you or not receiving your message and refusing to change, and it is so draining for you, you can leave that situation. You don't have to invest your time in there anymore. And that can be hard because you're told to extend grace and extend all these opportunities. But maybe your work is somewhere else. So you need to leave to go find the place where you should invest your energy to actually make a change. But just as my friend said, there is so much grace in this world. Just because that isn't the place for you doesn't mean that someone else won't come along and try and to teach and help that person grow, and maybe they'll be receptive to it then. Because just because you leave or quote unquote give up, God doesn't give up. But what about if you are the person who has been hurting others and now you're on the end of receiving grace? What do you do then? Well, this is honestly one of my favorite passages in the Bible. And it is in response to, when Peter is told that he's going to deny Jesus. And he's like, no, Jesus, I won't do that. And then he does it anyway. And then he feels really guilty and bad about it. Well, in between the resurrection and before Jesus is like, bye, I'm going to ascend into heaven now. The epilogue of John recalls this story. And this is John chapter 21, starting verse 15. After breakfast, Jesus asked Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Yes, Lord, Peter replied. You know I love you. Then feed my lambs, Jesus told him. Jesus repeated the question, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Yes, Lord, Peter said. You know I love you. Then take care of my sheep, Jesus said. A third time he asked him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was hurt that Jesus asked the question a third time. He said, Lord, you know everything. You know I love you. Jesus said, then feed my sheep. You see, for every time that Peter screwed up, Jesus is extending an opportunity of grace for Peter to repent. And note that it's not enough to just say, you know I love you. Jesus offers an action for Peter to take. Feed the sheep, take care of the sheep. Great, you've received this grace. Go out and extend it to other people. Show that you have learned by enacting this learned thing, by teaching other people who are making the same mistake as you how to not make that mistake. There's so much grace in this world. Yes, it's a renewable resource, but we have to actually harness the power of that resource. And it's a strong, challenging, tough thing to do. And it's something I have to remind myself a lot. It's very easy to get really angry. 2 videos ago, I talked about how I wanted to punch Steven Crowder in the face, but I reined myself in to know that he is not below grace, that he is not below the opportunity to make a change. And neither am I. I'm not above the ability to make a change. It's why I always ask at the end of my videos to be fact-checked, because I'm going to be wrong, but I want to learn from that. So I encourage you all to, in your lives, ask people to fact-check you and to fact-check others. But when that happens, critique in a graceful way that allows people to receive your message and to put yourself on the back burner to receive their message. Because just yelling at each other is not going to get anything done whatsoever. So thank you all for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and just know that, I love y'all. And God loves you, and if that makes you cringe and you're like, don't believe in God, the people around you love you. And there is so much grace in this world. Okay, bye.